back for another episode of Get Resource, where we chat everything about self source and others. Everything's about relationships. And today, last week, is wrapping up our final week on the theme of transactional to relational. But before we dive deep into it, we always love to check in with ourselves with the question, what's alive in you, Summer? What is alive in you?
Oh man, feeling of just embarking on more juicy topics because as we did our intro to conscious communication class yesterday, there's some insights that come up from people's thoughts
Mhm.
and responses and actions, and I just love getting to deeper and deeper layers of the truth that people are meant to relate, who are meant to be in community, and why everything's been so confusing for most of my life.
Mm.
Around that and how we can really work our way out of feeling hurt most of the time in relationships to having really co-creative and really life-sustaining ones. So
Mm.
that's what I'm feeling like today is about.
So, like feeling of excitement, a need of growth and self-expression being met.
Yes, it's getting there. Excitement isn't quite the word. I should maybe pull out
Mm.
my feeling sheet, which I have here handy. It's more just really appreciative, thankful, touched, energetic. There's another word somewhere in here on this. It's more like enchanted
Mm.
and
Enchanted.
and engrossed and in this essence of life that seems to be percolating everywhere.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds juicy.
It feels juicy. It does. How about you, Dre? What's alive in you today?
Well, I mean, sensation wise, I'm not 100%. I've been dealing with something since like Monday, not this past Monday, but the previous Monday, and it's really sitting in my chest. This phlegm that gets built up on my throat, and there is a fear of like pneumonia. Like, hopefully, it's not that, and I'm just gonna watch and pay attention to myself and take care of myself. And yeah, and I'm also uh, excited about this topic that we're going to talk about and unpack that more because it meets my need for understanding and growth. Just the awareness pieces. So, yay! And also looking over to the Facebook group. It looks like it's not starting up on the stream, so I'm a bit concerned.
Oh
Um,
no.
little tints of irritation there. Technology, man. Last week or even the previous, we our internet wasn't that great, and I think that's solved. But yeah, if you're watching anywhere on YouTube or Facebook or on our individual pages, do place a comment or something. Sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't, right? So we just hope that we can engage with you. If not live here on the call, we'll make sure we reply back to your comment afterwards.
Yeah, maybe it's restream. It does really irritate and frustrate me because it's so awesome when people can actually leave comments and direct the conversation. And so I'm
Mhm.
curious, maybe we explore a different platform. Oh, someone's
Oh,
put a
there you
comment
go.
in there. Yay.
Hi, Giselle. Thank you for doing that. That
Yay.
gives us reassurance that someone's here watching us. Yeah. And I'm curious, Giselle, like, oh yeah, you're on YouTube. It shows. Cool. So it's streaming on YouTube there for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So um this topic today was inspired from our intro to conscious communication workshop this past Wednesday. It's this idea of like expressing our truth. We kind of liken it to stage two, right, babe? Like emotional obnoxiousness and
Mhm.
what's after that of like, yeah, if I'm speaking my truth, like, is that a good thing? I mean, I put a good thing there. It is a judgment, but I think what we're exploring is the difference between emotionally vomiting or dumping on someone, which I call like
Yes. Yes.
unbridled self-expression, right?
Yeah.
Versus containment, versus expressing from a place of ownership. And I like to ask you, babe, like, what do you think the difference is?
Can you clarify your question so that I know I'm answering specifically?
Yeah,
Or
like
maybe can I paraphrase for you?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you asking me the difference between emotional vomiting um, versus expressing a truth in a way that is more easily met by somebody else versus, the
Yeah.
obnoxiousness?
I mean, is there like we talk about speak your truth, right? And so what makes the difference between having that truth be received in a way versus kind of being pushed back, right?
Right. Yeah, I think there's a couple layers to this too, because some people speak their truth, but they're labeling people, they're judging people. Like, you're an asshole. That's just my truth. Um, and they don't realize that, oh,
Hmm.
maybe there's a different truth to be spoken that's not a label or a judgment of someone else, but more about ownership of our own experience
Mm-hmm.
of what's happening in our inner world. We're not taught to share that stuff. And it is what allows us to actually feel connected to other human beings.
Hmm.
Like when you say, I've got this heaviness and this phlegm in my chest, I'm kind of curious. I'm like, oh, and emotionally, what does that feel to you, like this heaviness, or what's happening for you in your world?
Hmm.
Um, and so I think there's a reciprocity involved in, here's what I'm sharing here in this exchange of energy versus how I'm feeling is about you. And there's a distinction about, like you said, emotionally vomiting, unbridled self expression, which can look, people can get up into throwing stuff, and it gets up into some very more violent expressions,
Hmm.
versus checking in and owning, oh, I have my heat's full of my heat, my chest, my heart is full of heat, and my heart is pounding and my head is racing, and I'm observing myself. And when I speak to someone else, we can say something like, I'm noticing my head's pounding, my rate,
Hmm.
it's this, but owning it. And I think I said that in a really long
Hmm.
about way, because I'm not
Hmm.
sure, and I'm looking forward to this conversation because I want to know what the difference is. Like, what is speaking your truth, and what are your thoughts like on that?
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. And like, there's a distinction between when I'm expressing myself, am I projecting blame and shame onto someone else? Like they're the cause of my feelings, right? They are the one that is causing me this hurt and pain. And that only creates more conflict in a way of like causing the other person to be defensive and not hear me, right? Because we're kind of on the combative versus like me expressing from a place of owning my experience. Like this is what's happening within my inner world. And because I do that, like I'm not projecting this blame and shame and guilt onto you, that increases more chances of you hearing me, right? Or having compassion for me or wanting to contribute to my well-being. Yeah. So there is definitely a signature where conscious communication plays its role because I judge that I was brought up in a society that blames, shames, and guilts people. Like, you know, if I don't do this, I'm not a good boy, or if I don't do this, I don't get the love, right? And so I'm so trained to think of what's wrong outside of me, right? It's just ingrained, and so that's why conscious communication is a skill. It doesn't come naturally, and when we can have the
Well,
skill to communicate like what's happening for me, then it can be received and be met. Hey.
yeah, yeah. I think it's bringing in another thing with what you're saying, and that is that you know, we've been
Mm,
taught. What did you say as a child? Like, we're either right or wrong. You're a bad boy. You're a good girl.
mm,
And so there's this idea of right and wrong, and that the idea that people don't want to contribute to our well-being, that sometimes people just want to take from us. They're selfish, they're dependent, they're needy. There's all sorts of judgments that people have versus what I truly believe is that everyone wants to contribute to everyone else's well-being, because when
Mm,
someone else is doing well, feeling well, it's in the field, especially if I'm living with them. And so I think people desire to contribute to others' well-being. And
mm,
so I think it comes from a story and a place that we've been brought up with, which fundamentally I disagree with. This idea of maybe even going back to original sin versus maybe Matthew Fox's book, Original Blessing.
mm,
Um, and how do we communicate that we trust another person's innate design to give to life, to want to contribute, to wanting to express, to wanting to have meaning in life? I think that's how we're innately built, anyways.
mm. Yeah, I love what Giselle commented in the chat is like being aware of what my motivation is behind speaking my truth.
Mm.
I love that, right? And we share this in our class about like, what is my goals? Like, is it to be right? Is it to be on top? Is it to win and have power over you, or is it to have power with, or is it to meet the needs of everybody, and create a life that's more wonderful for everybody involved? So that's so key in terms of what is my motivation. Because if I'm in a place of like irritation and anger and mad, it's so easy for me to be like, it's your fault, right? And I want you to repent, right? I want you to say sorry. I want you to change to make me feel better. Interesting, right? Versus like this place of like owning my experience of like, this is who I am, this is what's happening for me. And I'm owning that. And I'm also inviting you into this experience to connect with you in that way. Because I also want to have you experience with me and have um, really have myself be felt by you, right? Because that's a need to be seen and heard, right?
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of the three stages of listening, right? Listening
Mm,
to be heard, listening to understand, some of Stephen Covey's work. And then I think the key one is listening to be with.
mm,
And when you're extending an invitation for others to be with you, even
mm-hmm,
when you said that whole thing, hey, I want you to change. I want you to do this for me because you're responsible for my feelings, versus an invitation to really see me and to live in my inner
mm,
experience. I felt this sense of softening, like you say, softening the plane as we come
mm,
in. This idea that I don't have to do anything. I don't have to fix anything for you, but I can be with you.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, and in being with you, it just kind of moves because the relationship is then set in motion and freed from this the expectation, right? That I have to do something or fix something for you.
mm. Yeah, and we're speaking about like there's many layers to this. I find because when I learn conscious communication, I can learn mechanics, right? Of like speaking from right? I feel, not you made me feel, right? But then it can also come across in a way that is like a jab or her landing for you. Like for example, I could be like coming to you, babe, and be like, man, I'm so freaking angry right now. I'm so irritated. Looking at the kitchen, it's such a mess. And I really need your support to clean this up right now.
This
Right.
is a real story, by the way.
What?
I was
What was
just saying,
this?
it's a real story. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, I can use the right mechanics of like expressing my feelings, expressing my needs. But because I'm dysregulated, I'm irritated and annoyed, in a way, it's kind of like I'm vomiting on Summer, right? I'm in a way emotionally dumping on her. Now, if she's skillful, she can like withstand that jab into her body, and I'll ask her how that lands for her. But then for some people, that created awareness for me is like, wow, that's great because that even surprised me because that's great for them because they now have clarity of what I'm feeling and eating, right? Because now I'm expressing it where before they never had that clarity. what we're sharing here is taking it a bit further, taking it a bit further from vomiting to containment, and we'll share more about that. But I want to ask you, Summer, like, how does that land in you? Like, if I were to come up to you and be like, "Man, I'm so annoyed right now. I'm needing cleanliness, and I really need your support to clean up the kitchen right now." How does that land in your body as I express it in that way?
Well, as you just said it now, it actually landed okay. And I want to backtrack a little bit because we had some people on our class yesterday, and they were like, wow, like if I had a partner and a man who told me what they're feeling and what they're needing, that'd be fantastic. But when there's a real aggression to it, and I might invite you
Mm.
to maybe put a bit more as if you're really in saboteur mode and it's driving you absolutely insane. When there's so much clutter, there's anxiety, and throw that out there as a example if you can conjure that in your own being right now.
Yeah, like right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, like I'm just imagining my saboteurs driving the bus and I'm hijacked and just fresh off, and I just be like, babe, I'm just really irritated right now because I'm really looking around and it's messy, and I need some order, and I need your support to help me clean right now.
Okay. And that isn't as bad as sometimes I've experienced. Like, we can tell when people are hijacked by the intonation in their voice, the
Mm.
expression on their face, and more importantly, how it lands in my body. Like Andre was saying, the jab to your body. Energetically, our speaking and our communication has not only words, sound, intonation, but it also lands in the body. And so aggravation, anger, and primarily judgment. And and if we're coming to conscious communication with a judgment first and going, oh man, they're just so freaking messy and they never do any work. But I know that's not conscious communication. And I'm going to say, hey, this is really messy and I need your help. But behind it is oh, they're just a messy person and they never, that can be felt.
Hmm. Like I'm judging you. Like I'm judging you to be messy. You know,
Yeah. And
I'm judging you as the cause of why I'm feeling irritated, even though I'm using the mechanics of conscious
yeah,
communication.
yes. And so a lot of people can hide behind the words. And that's where it gets really confusing for people because there's something different that they can feel in their body. And that's where empaths can get really confused, especially if people are protecting themselves and not sharing how they're actually feeling. And some of us don't even know. Some of us won't know that, oh, for example, Andre, and tell me if this lands for you. I don't know if it does. If it's not, if there's not a lot of order, there's an anxiety that arises, and maybe an anxiety about feeling loved or feeling competent, something that's really key to your own internal self-regulation. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of your regulation, your feeling well in your body. And if there's an invitation to that, I'm like all over it. And if there's an invitation to do it with you and there's teamwork and mutuality, I'm so excited.
Hmm.
But if there's a slight suggestion that I don't have a choice,
Mm.
like you have to help me and you're just messy and this is all about you, and I I either want to slink away and half ass do it because I'm not really have a choice. And that goes back to when people feel that there's a demand in the air, they're either going to submit or they're going to rebel. And I'm more of a rebeller than a submitter usually. Um, but what comes out of that is resentment. And so we're not actually communicating then. We think we're communicating. Well, I guess we are. We're communicating judgments, but we're not getting what we really want, which is the connection, which is the understanding out of it. And so I'm going to feed that back to you to maybe clarify what I'm saying, because I'm not sure if I'm making sense with what I've just said. Can you?
Yeah, I think one thing I got from what you're sharing is
Yeah.
choice,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a key piece because when I can imagine when someone's expressing their anger with me and asking me what to do, immediately it brings me back to as a child, and I would submit. My default would be to submit because growing up I would be beat, and it's like I was afraid of my parents, and so I didn't have a choice, even though I have a choice. It's just that I was afraid of the consequences if I'd said no. So in that case where someone was angry at me and asking me what to do, my default would be to do it anyways because I fear what would happen if I'd said no. And right
Yeah.
away, that gives off a demand energy and that removes autonomy and choice. So if I reflect that back to you, me expressing my anger around the cleanliness of the house, there's a part of me that knows that I'm giving this demand energy because what if you did say no? What if you didn't agree? And I'm angry and irritated. Most likely, I'd be more angry and irritated. I would raise my voice more. I would storm off. I would think you wouldn't have my back. I would be judging you, right? And so that doesn't leave you with the choice in a way because um, it's how I respond, right? How I react to how you say no. So the key piece with conscious communication is how do I communicate my request from a place of request energy, invitation energy versus demand energy. And I know that when I'm dysregulated and I communicate from that place, the other person, if they're a people pleaser, can easily submit to that energy. Or if not, they can rebel, right? And that just leaves more of a hard landing for us to deal with. So it's also on me to come to you from a place of more regulated state, right? To come with containment. And this is what I'm talking about, containment. And before I get into it, yeah, Giselle, like totally. I agree with you. Like being with being with those that may not have the conscious communication skills is a lot more difficult and more challenging than speaking to someone that has shares the same language, right? And we'll touch on that too, because at our intro class, someone asked, what would you do when someone doesn't speak this language? How can we impact the field? And we can. And Angeline, thank you for commenting. We do see your comment. Um, awesome. Yeah, we do see it. Hello, halo. Yeah. So containment is what I mean by like if I'm expressing my anger at times, like now I come from a place where I love all my feelings. Where before like I judge sadness, I judge anger, right? I'm like, oh, I only want to feel good feelings. These are bad feelings. But because feelings are my internal guidance system, feelings are what have given me to me by source, God, and the universe. I want to give space for them all, right? So
And I
now I
there
express, yeah.
just because in my mind I'm a little confused, and so I think because containment can kind of look like repression in a way. And at the same time, you're saying, I do want to give room and space. And so, room and space seems like the opposite to containment at the same time. And so,
No, yeah, I haven't explained the containment piece yet. That's why. Yeah. So when I speak about containment, it's important to know what the context is in regards to containment. So when I express my anger, it's like, am I spilling this anger onto onto someone else? Or is it within my field? So what I mean by containment is I'm angry, but I got this. It's not like uncontrollable rage where I'm throwing things, I'm smashing my computer, I'm slamming the door, I'm walking around, stomping around the floor, and you can hear that I'm angry. Or I'm washing dishes and I'm making loud noises, right? It's just that I'm angry right now, but I got this. I can handle this. So that's containment, right? And as a nice guy, as a people pleaser, growing up, I have low tolerance for intensity. That as soon as I register intensity from someone or in my body, I collapse, right? I people please. I want to fix it. And so I'm hijacked. So how can I be with the intensity of someone without collapsing, without running away, without fighting back? And containment is like, I can breathe into this. I have the capacity to deal with this intense emotion without losing control, right? Without letting my emotions run me. So when I can come to Summer and express my irritation and anger from a place of containment, I'm not spilling it over to her. It's like it's coming from a place of, hey babe, I'm feeling irritated right now. I can even be playful with it because it's a bit softer on my body, right? There's times where you hear my voice, my intonation. I always use a high pitch, like I'm kind of angry right now, versus I'm angry right now, right? And I do this because it's softer. I create a softer landing, and I know I can have that, right? So I'm like, I'm angry right now, and just curious, like, would you be open to supporting me with cleaning up the dishes and cleaning up this? You know? So I'm not spilling that over. So that's the difference between emotionally vomiting or dumping is I'm doing it unconsciously versus consciously, and I'm creating like a safe bucket for it.
Safe bucket. Like it. Um,
No.
what do we got a comment there? That'd be interesting. Can you read that out there, Dre? I
Yeah.
can't actually see it
Yeah.
from
I,
where
I
I am.
recently had an experience where I expressed my feelings and needs and did not use the request part of communication. And it felt demanding, like you have to take care of my feelings. Yeah, good point. Like let's say, for example, I express my feelings without the need, right? I say, I'm feeling angry right now. The other person would be confused. Most likely, if Summer said she was feeling sad and I was unaware of this, I would probably want to fix it.
Hmm.
Or I'd be so confused that I don't even know what to do, right? So I'll do nothing. So it's helpful to add the need, right?
Definitely. Yeah. In fact, Marshall Rosenberg says without the need, it rarely lands well. People have to have an
Mm,
understanding of what the other person needs because the actual definition of a need is that they're words that describe the life serving energy that motivates and sustains us. And that is the same for everybody. I did want to take a slight trek back because you're talking about containment and this skill that it is to put it in a bucket instead of like just throwing it on somebody and the state of shock and the collapse that can come when there's an intensity. And I love how you brought up the word intensity. There is what we have is a trigger scale. And that's when our nervous system from like 0 to 10 and 0 to 5 are, front cortex, our ability to think properly. Our fight and flight isn't necessarily triggered. We're just mildly irritated or annoyed. And it's easier to contain ourselves in those moments. What happens though, Dre, when someone is triggered at a 10? And sometimes it appears that people go from 0 to 10 because some kind of incident, and if they haven't had enough sleep, there's a few things that have gone on, it triggers. That's why they call them a trigger. It's just this sudden reaction to something that reminds them of something in the past. And so, what do we do with that? How do we learn containment over time? And what happens when someone's in your midst and the intensity really is so much and they can't contain it? What do we do with that? I'm going to throw
mm.
it back to you.
Like what we do with someone that's not able to contain, like when they're at a trigger 10.
Yeah.
Well, taking a break, you know, applying regulation skills to bring that back down because if I'm at a 10, then I'm not able to hear you, I'm not able to hear myself. Like I think we need to take time and space to bring it back down,
Hmm.
to get clarity, right? Because there's no point of communicating from that place. um, for me it's about nervous system regulation at this point.
Yeah. And so, in terms of that, because we talk about co regulation and co containment. And so, in our class, we always say, if someone can notice someone's triggered and in saboteur mode, and this is, when they're just spewing out judgments, if they're able to contain themselves, and sometimes this takes a bit of practice and spaciousness, the other person who's triggered, because the intensity of that anger the anger or whatever it is, it doesn't last because it's so intense. It's like a flash in the pan, or when people throw gasoline in an oil fire, it goes, but then it quickly dies down. And so if we can observe, and we can if we've done a lot of emotional work, if we get triggered ourselves, that's when, yeah, we need a lot of space. But there is the possibility of the person who is less triggered, able, able to regulate themselves, getting out of the judgment in their mind, because people who are triggered can feel judgment. It's like their empathy is elevated in those moments. And if we can get out of judgment, we become a clear conduit. It's just like newborns. If one's sick, twins, one's sick and the other one is doing well, you put them beside each other and the other one starts to regulate with the more healthy person. When you're in a space with someone and you're able to do that, being mindful that you're not repressing anything of your own needs, it's in the field and the other person will start shifting. The key is that we stay out of fear of what we're observing, and we're used to being in fear with people who have really intense emotions in our culture. We're not sure how to deal with that. So it does take a bit of skill. But being able to reflect back to someone what they're actually feeling without the judgment of what you think this means. They're an angry person, they need anger management, whatever those judgments are. It can shift the intensity quite quickly. So I just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah, yeah, the power of co-regulating. Yeah, yeah. That it just needs one person to be regulated to support bringing the other person down. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Just providing that quality of presence, right? Empathic
Quality.
listening to be able to reflect back the feelings and needs and still be grounded. Because a big part of it for me to be triggered that way is because I'm not heard. I don't, I'm being misunderstood.
Yeah.
And when I kind of lands in my body that you're hearing me, then definitely it brings it down for sure. And it is the skill to stay in the heat of the moment. Like it's easy for me to leave, right? And come back. But to stay in the moment and regulate in that moment, yeah, it is challenging. And that's where the skill gets developed over time. It's like me building the containment, right? And that starts with me being able to handle my own intensity, right?
Oh.
Right? To be able to handle someone else's. It's like nervous system training. Like I'm going to the gym for my emotional capacity and I judge we don't have that skill. We don't go to the school or train this way. We're trained to numb, we're trained to avoid, we're trained to just react, at work, someone's pissed off and they're taking it out on their staff or clients. So we're not trained to be able to contain this intensity and still be grounded. Like the practice of being okay to receive a no, or disappointing others when I set my own boundaries, or speaking my truth, or hearing the truth from someone else, and just breathing into the intense emotions that arise. Like for
Mm-hmm.
a long time, my body was not conducive for conflict whatsoever. Like I recall many times having these tough conversations with my mom and dad or brother and sister, and we would just start shaking uncontrollably and start crying. Or I remember fighting like in school, and I would get so angry that I was crying. Like I wasn't sad. It's just that I had so much emotion bottled up in me that when I was fighting someone, I was crying at the same time.
Mm.
And this energy was so intense, right? And I didn't get it. And I was kind of afraid of it, right?
I
So
love
how can I
what you said about
yeah?
that.
Hmm?
Yeah. Sorry, am I cutting you off?
What were you saying? You
I was
said
just
something
saying
there?
I'm loving what you're saying about I couldn't handle my own intensity.
Hmm.
Like I've never heard you say that before, and it's just like opened up light bulbs for me and of excitement, because what it reflects to me is, yeah, as a controller, one of my saboteurs is like, okay, I want to have everything organized and people in place, because my family was quite, I don't know what was going on in my family at the time. And when I feel separated from someone, when I feel disconnected, the anxiety for me, it sounds like anger is so intense in you.
Hmm.
Anxiety And I would never admit that
Mm,
years ago, but the anxiety was so intense and I
mm,
couldn't contain it in myself. I didn't know how to process it in myself. So then I'm like leeching out to have other people like, you have to help me here, like come closer so that I don't feel such anxiety. And of
mm,
course, that only like people like, oh my God, get away from me, right? And so, how do we begin
mm,
like if we can contain and understand our own and handle our own intensity, that's when we
mm,
gain the skills to handle others'
mm.
intensities. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a workout, right?
It is a
To allow
workout.
me, even in like traffic, getting road rage, how do I breathe in and be with that anger, irritation of someone cutting me off? Just breathing through it. That is a nervous system workout. Is to expand my body to be okay with it rather than leaking it out. Because before growing up, I would leak it out. I would snap uncontrollably, like outburst, right? I'll play a video game and I get killed or something, and I'll throw my controller. Yeah, looking back now, man, like I had some anger issues, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would smash my keyboard, throw the video game controller, bro. I would break it, and I would get mad for breaking it. Yeah, I was just a kid that didn't know how to handle my anger, and it was so easy and right in my face when having those tough conversations with my brother and sister, and we would both all of a sudden shoot from 0 to 10 in anger, and we would cry and shake, and we're like, "Holy crap, what's going on here?" And it was so scary that I didn't want to experience that ever again. Like I felt like I lost control. It's just that I wasn't in a situation or environment that allowed me to practice being with that anger in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do we be with emotions in a healthy way? I see people, different people are like, oh well, go get a pillow and just beat on it, express it outwards.
Mm.
But how do we process it inside ourselves? What does that mean to you to process it in a healthy way?
Well, that's tricky, right? Because one thing is being with that anger, and another thing is to process it what it means.
Mhm.
And that
Ah,
take right? They're two separate things. The first part is to be with it is to breathe through it, is to be present with it, to not fix it, to not get rid of it, to not let it leak, right?
mhm.
Um, and that allows me to like, oh. And the second piece is through conscious communication. It's having the awareness that, if I'm feeling this way, what am I needing? What needs of mine are not being met, right? And then with that awareness, then I can, because I'm breathing, I can connect with, okay, what am I needing right now? Even asking that question and allowing that to pop up. That's one way. That's one way of processing it. What about you? What would you, what's coming alive for you in terms of like being in
Um,
that space and then processing that anxiety or anger?
yeah, I think like what you're saying, okay, I'll go through my feelings and then identify my needs. For some people, it's really hard for them to do it. There's
Mm,
a step in there. Okay, what am I feeling and what does this remind me of? That's why it's a trigger. It's a mirror to a past experience. And so for me, um, I have a sister I've never met. And I think what I
mm,
knew is that I think when you come into a room or a womb, when someone else has been present, you have an idea that someone else has been there. And so I had this longing and this missing for my sister that I've never met my entire life. And it was in the field. And so there's a lot of family secrets and different things that people don't talk about. And this is where it's still locked in our bodies. And people kind of skirt around these things for generations that we've been doing it. And so as we tap in to allow us to touch those emotions, we can touch into their actual origin, which usually isn't the present moment. And as we come to touch in, and sometimes people do inner child work, or we touch that part of ourselves, that protector part of ourselves, just, really get to know them. And that's where we start to have communications on the inside. They call it internal family systems.
mm,
Hey, okay, what part of me feels that? And can I be with it? So we start to practice these skills with ourselves and all the different parts of ourselves that maybe we felt we've had to push down or push aside and actually welcome them back in as part of who I am.
Mm,
And then it makes it so much easier to know what it is that I need.
mm,
Because a lot of men, oh, I'm tough, I'm whatever. I don't. Actually, my little guy, he actually needs a hug. I need
mm.
some presence from someone else to support me right now, and it doesn't mean that I'm weak. And so that's what I would add is that when we're triggered, there's a mirror, and we've often felt these things before. It's just that it's coming up to be healed,
Mm.
and it's a sign. It's a gift of what needs to be healed in that moment.
Man, that creates so much trust. You know, I judge creates so much trust in relationships when someone has the competence to do that. Like if I'm able to handle my own intensity, I'm sure, babe, you're confident I can handle yours. But if I can't handle my own anger, then how can you trust me to handle yours, right? And this goes back to the piece of like this notion that hey, be more vulnerable. And I totally get it. But it's this notion that like and a lot of men are resistant to it, right? I don't want to be vulnerable. Or maybe they're vulnerable and it backfires. And it's because
Yeah.
I don't have the awareness of containing my vulnerability and the competence to be able to process it. So for example, let's say I go to you, babe, and I'm super vulnerable, but I'm dumping on you, right? Now the judgment is you're becoming my mom. You don't
Yeah.
want to be my therapist. You don't want to be my coach. And maybe at first it's refreshing. You're like, oh my God, thank you for sharing your feelings with me. But imagine I bring my shit to you every single day, right? And I'm like, hey, I'm being vulnerable. Isn't this what you want? Actually, I judge it's not what you want. I judge what you want is depth and containment of my vulnerability. What does that mean? Depth is you're seeing my soul. You're connecting. It's not like, oh, I'm irritated or surface level stories and stuff like that. All of a sudden I'm complaining, right? You're like, oh, it's so draining. Or what has happened at work. But underneath that, what are my needs? Underneath that, what am I bearing my soul and feelings to you? That's what depth is, right? Not surface level, but you're connecting to the life within me. Second piece is containment and knowing that Dre's got this. He's being real with me because she can feel it in the field that I'm bringing this shit home from work. You can feel it. You can feel when I'm stressed. You can feel it when I'm angry. You can feel it. And if I don't communicate that to you, then how does that build trust? Right? There's something in the field and that affects you. So to say that, oh, I'm being strong for you by holding this back, actually, I'm actually torturing you. I'm torturing myself. I'm impacting this relationship indirectly. So by me sharing this openly, it builds stronger foundations of trust and helps clean up that energy so that we're not torturing each other. We're not suffering. But I share it in a containment way where I'm competent because I have the skills to connect it to my needs, and to talk to the parts of me that are having that need, right? And then you're witnessing me or you're supporting me in that fashion. And that gives you confidence that, man, Dre's being real. And also this confidence that Dre can handle it.
Yes. Wow, what a great synopsis, babe. You're on fire. And Giselle even says it so much richness, right? The layers of it. So we came into this talking about, well, let's speak our truth. Well, what are the layers to that? And to me, what you're saying right now is I'm being real. And what partnership really is I want to see the aspects of your
Mm,
soul. What is it that you need? What makes you come alive? And let me be a part of it, please.
mm,
I want to be a part of what brings you alive because I want to be alive with you. That's why I'm in relationship, is because I want to be alive with you. And yeah, I don't want to do it for you. I don't want to be your mom. I don't want to be your therapist.
mm,
And I don't want to be your people pleaser and your martyr and your controller or any of those things.
mm,
I want us to be authentic. I want us to be aligned. And this is where now relationships come from marriages or roles or places of what we think masculine and feminine is to, well, what are our soul contracts? What is our human design made for? And are they complementary? And it's more of a soul level reality of do we have a life together that's more meaningful than it was separately? Can we achieve things that we couldn't do alone?
Mm.
Do we attract healthier relationships? Do we ripple out an effect in both our families that allows them to grow, that allows them to become healthier and more vibrant?
Mm.
Mmm.
Yeah, so juicy. Just juicy. Hey, Lena, greetings from Ireland. Wow, welcome. Glad to have you
Welcome.
here with us.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that talks about like that transition from stage one of like, being stuck in my pain, my woundedness, or even just asking like, what can you do for me? What about my needs? And it's not to say like my needs aren't important. It's just that are we stuck circling around like in this holding pattern of like my needs, my needs, my needs. And then stage two is this relational context of what about our needs? What about us and we, right? And this third stage, and not to say that we're aiming to be in stage three all the time. Every stage serves a purpose, and I find myself fluctuating back and forth. Right? Stage three is like, what does this relationship want? What does love want? How does love want to be expressed through our union? It's like looking at this third entity, right? Where like we're not losing ourselves in the relationship. It's just that when we come together, it creates this third entity. And this third entity is like, well, how does it want to be expressed through us? And when I
Mm.
can have the conversation of like what our vision is, our values as a relationship, it provides such an anchor to remind me of what truly matters, especially in those moments where we're tit for tat, right? We're keeping score, we're we're struggling to hear each other. We can anchor ourselves back into like, hey, what does love want right now? It helps us get grounded. It helps me get grounded. It helps me anchor myself into that.
Yes. And there was something that you triggered in my thoughts, and it just kind of floated away there. And when you got to the keeping score piece,
Mm,
what does love want? Um, oh, I know what it was. Bruce Lipton wrote a book called The Honeymoon Effect. When we're all excited and we're all together, and how we can perpetuate that. And he talked about noble gases. And so when one electron, my energy field, meets your energy field, do we amplify each other? Do we create more of who we are versus the negativity and bringing us down, which is that scorekeeping thing you were talking about? How can we amplify who we are? And I think that goes right back to the vomiting versus the containment and the judgment that comes with vomiting, with unbridled self expression, and being able to know the difference. How do we catch our saboteurs and the judgments of what we think is wrong or right, and trying to pigeonhole people into boxes and allowing them to be truly seen and heard? And I think that goes back. I think Stephen Covey has that saying, seek to understand, then be understood. I think it's a really important key to hear someone and then be able to enter the field of relationship with them. But again, it goes back to, can we be with someone? And we can't really be with others unless we've learned to really, truly be with all aspects of ourselves. And that goes into a little bit of what some people might call shadow work. What are the parts of ourselves that we've disowned and need to reclaim so that we can be whole and step into a relationship with all of who we are?
hmm Yeah, shadow work isn't a witch hunt; it's a rescue mission.
And
hmm
sometimes we communicate and it feels much more like a witch hunt, for sure. Yeah.
Right,
And
I'm judging my own judge. Yeah.
yeah. And in relationship, like you said, and I do believe, and I've been waiting for this for a few years, see this vision of how couples and people can hold the space together. You don't need therapy because there's nothing wrong with this. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be diagnosed. We just have to understand how energy runs through our body. Emotions are energy. Our heartbeat is an electromagnetic signal that runs through our entire body.
Mm.
When they say follow your heart, express from your heart, there's a real thing to that. It's not this flaky, fluffy something or other. It is the strongest emanating signal that we have in our body, and it goes out for miles. People
Mm.
feel it. Empath means in pathos, in feeling. To truly live an embodied sentient life, we need to be willing to A, be in feeling with ourselves first, and B, be able to sit with others in feeling and create the space and the container, talking about containment, to feel that.
Mm.
And that's when anger, all of those, like you
Mm.
say, the GPS mechanisms start to land in the truth that we can be at peace at any
Mm.
given moment just by being present to what is versus what we think it should be, which is mostly in what relationship or what we're doing. Oh, he needs to clean up more often, or he needs to do this, or the kids need to do this, or why aren't I good enough, and haven't I fixed all of this stuff? Well, when we're present, we're not worried about what we think things should be. We can clearly see what's needed.
Yeah, yeah. You know, like even the moment where I feel irritated and annoyed when the kitchen is messy, right?
Mm.
It's actually not about you, it's about me. Why am I so irritated and annoyed by the uncleanliness? What does that mean? What story? What does it remind me of, right? And I'm easily projecting that onto you and judging you. And this conversation reminds me of the question that Giselle brought up of like how challenging it can be to speak to someone that doesn't share the same language, right?
Mm.
And I love your idea about the noble gases and also the neuroscience behind mirror neurons is that, you know, if I do my own inner work, if I do the shadow work and I integrate myself, my presence alone and the transmission of my energy through my voice, through my presence, creates a safe space for others because of what's being reflected within myself. You know, they talk about yogis and you know people that have done their work for some time. They enter into a room and people can feel that peace. People in the presence of someone that's done their work feel like they're being seen, right? And so when we can do this work, we can bring that transmission with us. And so I like to ask you, babe, like, what if you went to like a family reunion or something, right? Like, and you're with family members that can push your buttons but don't share this language. Like, how do you bring this work to them, right? Like, how would you communicate? I guess you know that was a question with one of our attendees at our intro. Was like, yeah, what do you do with those that are not involved in this work? Like, how do you make it practical? Like, if I learn this stuff and I go to work or I come home, how do I leave an impact? How do I change things?
Mm. Well, one of the big ways I did that is it isn't verbal. It's how I learned about my own saboteurs and typical thought patterns and judgments. And oh, it make me emotional. Realizing what my true intent was behind them and how they came across to other people. And so as I learned what maybe my ex-husband, my dad, my mom, my daughter, what their true intentions were and what their saboteurs are, I have less judgment. I can love them even though I can see their behaviors aren't ideal, but I understand the motivation
Mm,
and I can speak to them from that place. And it's so different because then they feel understood and I'm not judging them or blaming them, but I can see because I've seen myself.
mm,
And so the way that I come into it is I'm no longer irritated and annoyed by their humanness. And they feel that.
mm, mm,
They feel it. And they don't know what's different necessarily, all they know. And there's a saying that people don't really care what you do, and they don't remember what you do or what you've done or what you've accomplished, but they do remember how you make them feel. And to me, that's the true legacy of this work. People can have lots of money. And when people talk about legacy, when they pass that on to children and things, they usually think about things. For me, I think it's shifting to a more spiritual, embodied practice of spreading love through generations in this way. Yeah.
Beautiful, babe. Yeah,
Mm.
like Giselle reiterated, it's not verbal for sure. Yeah, it's our presence. What are my
And
thoughts, right? Like, how am
yeah,
I
I
interpreting this person?
I'm sorry. I just noticed that Bobby Barrington in here, and that is so cool.
Hmm.
She was one of the kids that went to school with my daughter in Caraway, and really appreciate seeing you here. It's exciting. Yeah.
Mm.
Where we
That
can
connection.
span this work across the generations, because we're all just souls running around as people who want to feel loved. And
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. And of course, there's always the opportunity to share this work with your beloved, with someone, right? To be part of a chosen family where you're in a community of people that are aware of this language. It does make it easier. It makes a softer landing when we can share that language. And that's our invitation to you as well. As we wrap up this conversation, we have our conscious communication level 1 course starting on Tuesday, September 9th. We also have our level 1, or not level 1, level 2 conscious communication course starting Tuesday, October 21st. If that interests you, send us some,
Ah,
messages, DM us. Yeah.
I think we're switching it to the 23rd, right? Thursdays.
Yeah. Yeah. 24th then, right? Yeah. Wait. Yeah. 24th, Thursday for level 2.
23rd.
Yeah. Okay. 23rd. 23rd. Yeah. So yeah, just reach out. We do have level 1, level 2, and there'll be courses in the new year as well. We also intend to do some free workshops, on our Facebook group. Our Facebook group is Get Resourced. I'm feeling a bit irritated that our stream didn't go to our Facebook group. Tech glitches, right?
I know.
Um, it's
So you're
unfortunate, though we
annoying,
plan
but
on doing workshops such as, the art of interruption, how interruption, the skill of it can bring life back to the conversation, right? You ever been in a conversation where it just keeps going on and on and on and on and just sucks up the energy? How can we interrupt in a way that makes that person being interrupted feel heard and seen and bring lives back into everybody else that's witnessing it? We also have, saying no to get the love that you want. It's a people pleasers workshop, and we can, teach you the power of no. No is actually saying yes to a need, and it doesn't stop the conversation. It continues it. It lets us get to know each other in a better way. So we'll have a series of workshops. Stay tuned. We'll be streaming it live in our Facebook group, and you can also join us live by registering for the Zoom link when those workshops are available. So 2 parts you can interact is being on the Zoom with us interacting, or just watching live or afterwards in the Facebook group. Anything
yeah.
to add, Ben?
Well, I just noticed Giselle put a little comment there. Community is so important and so enriching, and we're coming to the end, but yeah.
Yeah, speaking of that, the Secret Sanctuary, if you're in the Alberta area, they're hosting a community potluck near Pigeon Lake, Alberta tomorrow. There's details in our Facebook group as well. Summer and I will be out there, heading out and just being with friends, learning gardening, whatever activities are there. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Giselle. Other
Yeah.
beautiful soul today.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, Giselle. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for letting us know that you are present. It so meets my need to be seen and to connect and just hear your thoughts really lands for me that, man, I am making an impact, and that meets my needs for being a purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks to Lena, Barrington, Chris, everyone who's joined us today, and I hope we can be more consistent on where the stream actually ends up being. But
Well, at least we make some improvements. The internet is better.
the
The
internet is
video,
better.
right? Audio is better.
Audio is
So
better.
we do learn. We do learn to
We
make things
do.
better. Okay. Well,
Thanks, everybody.